All right, let's start. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Before we begin, just a quick introduction. We are the team behind the Kleecks platform and AI Search Audit. Kleecks is an AI web optimization platform that helps digital teams quickly improve website performance without modifying the existing infrastructure. Alongside the platform, last year we developed AI Search Audit, a tool designed to assess how ready your website is for the new landscape of AI-driven search. It's an essential addition to your technology stack and one of the few solutions capable of truly analyzing how your site performs in the context of AI search. But we will talk about that later. Now, I'm very happy to introduce our speaker. Today's session will be led by Diana Avelar, our VP Strategy Director, an SEO and AI search expert with over 12 years of experience working with global brands and e-commerce company. So with that, I leave the floor to Diana.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, let's start with what's changing. Okay, so just to give a little bit of context about this webinar and why we adopted this approach, why we have launched this new platform. Well, everyone knows everything that is changing in these past couple of years. The introduction of LLMs changed drastically the behavior. Google itself also and other search engines decided to evolve and address artificial intelligence massively. So, of course, this brought totally new different types of search. So from SEO, actually, let's say that SEO multiplied in many ways. It has brought many branches that depend a lot on the type of searches that you want to perform, how you would like to search, but mainly it's addressing a new type of user experience, and a user experience that is much more personalized, much more detailed, and seeks above all content that is made of quality, not just quantity. So having said that, of course, also strategies adopted. Everything that was before traditional SEO has evolved, and nowadays we have all these branches that have to be addressed. And of course, we are going to focus on AI, but never forgetting, of course, the foundations of SEO. So what is changing massively? In these past couple of years, we have switched from traditional keywords. From keywords, we have started with intents. Google itself in the past has released algorithm updates that brought focus onto the intent of the search way before AI search bots emerged. So this already was the beginning of a switch in terms of search engine. But nowadays we have all this revolution where people start searching, probably not always on Google, not always also on the search engines that are like these AI search bots, LLMs, could be also YouTube, could be also TikTok. So search is now massively dispersed, but now focusing a bit on these LLMs that have a kind of behavior that is very interesting that we need to now understand and adopt. Of course, this means that from simple keywords, we need to switch into context and intents. So all the strategy has to be also revised, and the way that we actually create content and communicate with the users has to be greatly thought, but also taking into account how the search engines is going to react towards this structure. So in a simple words, we go from simple keywords to semantics. We need to fill all these clusters of topics. From this point on, when we write content, we need to understand that we are not targeting only one single keyword or a topic, but a semantic area, semantic gaps. So we need to understand all the relationships between the pages, what we want to answer, what kind of questions the users can ask, so we can start creating all this authority that can build the brand way beyond the simple SEO strategies. So this is more or less the impact. This data probably has changed nowadays, but what we know so far is that the impact of AI, in this case AI overviews, for example, is that everything that before used to bring traffic, informational traffic, so people trying to get informed within a website, well, nowadays they don't need it anymore. They get informed directly within these search engines. So the impact is great. This means also that new metrics, new KPIs are arising, and also the strategies consequently have to be adopted. From this point on, organic traffic is not the main KPI very often for who is pursuing SEO or geo or whoever you want to call it. We need to take into account that a lot of the old traffic that we would be acquiring that was informational for who was just performing a simple discovery or consideration probably is no longer happening within our website itself. It's happening outside, but it doesn't mean that the journey is completely lost. No, it's just disrupted. The steps are changing. So every single click that we are going to be capturing from this point on probably is going to have a totally different intent. So therefore, also the websites need to be ready to address this kind of revolution. So now, not going into technical details, obviously, but we need to take into account two different aspects. Well, in the past, it was all into how the users were perceiving a brand, how the content was passed. PR played a major role and still does, of course, but nowadays it's no longer sufficient because we have the human, but we also have the machine. And in this case, how AI, vector brand in this case, is evaluating how your brand is displayed depends a lot also on how you distribute your content and how you are aligned in terms of brand visibility, entity clarity. So you need to be predominant and dominant and unify your presence across all touch points so AI can recognize you as an authority and properly cite you and potentially also, of course, bring traffic. But the main objective here is presence much more than traffic itself. So there are these two different aspects that both need to be taken into account because, of course, AI also values a lot everything that is quality. So, of course, no one is going to just start writing content for a machine. That doesn't work that way. We need to take into account both aspects. From now on, it's a strategy that has to always look into two different aspects. So here we go. This is more or less synthesized. So we go from taking into account all structures of the websites that often were targeting keywords, that were trying to dispose content in a way that, well, was already penalizing for SEO. But nowadays, we have an extra complexity because it's not only the traditional search engines that may bring us problems, we have the extra issues of AI search engines. Well, they are very smart in terms of content interpretation, but nowadays still quite limited in terms of resources, crawlability, and identification. So technical accessibility, and we are not talking about web accessibility. In this case, is how the search engine bots can correctly visualize and understand the content is a main factor, a major factor of the strategies in these upcoming months, definitely. So we need to always pursue everything that is connected with the brand, but we also need to foresee everything that is connected with how LLMs are going to properly interpret the content and the website to try to guarantee, for what we can, of course, AI visibility. So here is just an overview, more or less, of what are the main pillars from SEO to geo, whatever you want to call it. In this case, we can take into account as additional information that was already present within SEO. So, for example, if we talk about structured data, if we talk about metadata and everything that is connected with SEO, it's quite common, but of course, it's evolving. It's becoming more complex and enriched. So nowadays, we need to take into account quality of the content. So it needs to provide all the expertise, all the authority required to be guaranteed as unique and valuable. That is mandatory always. So content remains, of course, the main pillar. But nowadays, these search engines, they value and favor everything that is also connected with a clear structure. So let's say that a content that is probably distributed in a certain way is going to probably win within this war, let's say, of AI, comparing to others that probably have a more massive format. So it's, of course, a revision of how websites are going to be written from now on. And then, of course, we go back to the technicalities. Structured data is one of most common pillars of AI that we know that if we provide to the machines the content distributed and breaking down in small elements, it's going to greatly help how the content is identified and then potentially cited. Now we start a bit with some data. In this case, it's from Neil Patel, the impact. The impact for now, for some sectors, it's higher than others. What we are foreseeing as in a future is that the behavior is going to shift quite a lot. We are expecting also impacts to come to paid search. We are expecting to see also shopping within LLMs, and in these next coming months and years, we are expecting the shopping behavior online to shift massively, especially for some industries. So what we can tell you right now is that the market share regarding AI search bots is still massively dominated by ChatGPT so far. Of course, this behavior may change, but it's expected that the global market share is going to massively increase in just a few years. So this is why adopting is essential, mandatory to keep online presence. In terms of requests, and this is also a very interesting slide, you can see that traffic is also, of course, bots sometimes, not always led by humans. So from this point on, our users are going to be human and also bots. And this is, of course, what has to always be kept in mind. So why? And why have we brought up this platform? Well, it started with the fact that many brands and clients say, okay, there's a lot coming up, a lot of changes, but we don't know what we need to do. We don't even know what are the problems. And this is exactly why we brought up AI Search Audit. So this platform was built to help those that would like to understand what is going on with their website from the LLM's perspective. So basically, it was built to understand how the website can be properly visible in terms of content, structure, semantically, and so on. So basically, if you want your website to be as ready as possible for AI, this is a tool that is definitely going to help and bring a lot of insights. It's used mainly by brands themselves or agencies, so it's comprehensive enough so brands can also be autonomous in utilizing the platform. Usually it's used to be able to provide insights in terms of website fixes, but also to give some ideas of new topics to address in terms of content, what could be more explored in terms of communication and so on. And then, of course, for agencies that are probably those that are going to see the most value, it's because comparing to many other valuable tools in the market that have still as vertical traditional SEO, we did not want to compete with those. Absolutely, they are already market players. We wanted to fill the gap, going for that market share that is not covered nowadays, that is focused exclusively on AI. So we bring that extra something in terms of roadmap of activity. So we give scalable solutions and we provide assessments that are going to be focusing on how LLMs actually see. So this will allow you to build activity roadmap, an activity roadmap that focuses, of course, in identifying gaps that are present within the website or understand how to build in a more friendly way everything that is connected with the content of your pages. So this will allow definitely to map all the content within and understand also how to cluster correctly all the information within the pages. So what we are expecting is that it's going to improve and increase the visibility of the pages. So of course, as final goal, you are more cited and more present with a stronger visibility within LLMs. Of course, one thing important to mention, we do not focus on tracking of the visibility. Our focus is much more pragmatic. So this is more or less how it works. The final goal, of course, is provide suggestions with identifying problematics and then precise instructions to perform the fixes. How visible is a certain brand and so on, that is not our main focus. There are already many products in the market that are specialized in that, and this is not something that was relevant at this point, considering that we as Kleecks, first and foremost, and AI Search Audit fix issues, basically. So it's the pragmatic approach. It starts by performing an analysis that is based on prompts that, of course, try to replicate as closely as possible whatever could be searched by the user. These prompts are going to be based on the pages themselves. It's going to provide a score that depends on a lot of topics, of course, but it's going to give you more or less a readiness score comparing to many of the foundations of AI search in general. Provides a benchmark taking into account competitors that are predefined. And then, of course, lastly, this is the, let's say, work table, all the fixes, all the suggestions that are provided that can be quickly implemented. So this is more or less the workflow of the platform is quite intuitive. You have a simple wizard, of course, to do all the steps. You can set up the audit, choosing exactly what you would like, performs the analysis of any kind of pages simulating LLM behavior, creates prompts that are dedicated to the topics of the pages themselves, and of course compares with the competitors that are identified to then afterwards provide all the insights and suggestions for geo-compliance. Following the steps, quite easy. You can select, of course, the domain. The audit is done per website. You select one country and one language. This because, of course, it has to be everything localized. So we would not do multi-country to provide prompts that are specific to the user behavior of a certain market. The number of URLs can also be defined according to website dimension, strategic needs, and so on. And the same also for the number of competitors. The competitors could be, I don't know, other brands, potential resellers, could be any type of competitors that are those that are inspiring in terms of coverage, in this case for LLMs. And then the number of prompts, this also depends on how you would like to work on a content and semantic coverage, and brand or unbranded, once again, depending a lot on the strategy. If you would like to foresee an expansion in terms of topics, or if you would like to probably protect the brand and go focused onto a certain topic. So how does it work in this case? Well, it performs an analysis of the page, analyzes all the main topics that are here present, the four main topics like structured data, LLM-friendly content, presence of FAQ, Q&A, and answer readiness of the content itself. So analyzing these macro areas provides a score that goes all the way up to 100%, which is probably unachievable. And in this case, it's also highlighted the number of prompts that was created for this single URL. You also see, of course, the trend of the optimization of this page itself. And this trend, of course, is going to change as while you perform changes within the website and so on. In terms of prompt creation, well, the platform simulates, of course, LLM behavior, but based on what users actually search. Starts, of course, from the topic of the pages. and working closely with those logics, it's capable of simulating what could be user queries, but if they are not agreeable, if not aligned with tone of voice or brand interest, they can be modified, and of course can be added also others simultaneously. The secondary prompts are trying to simulate the logic of a query fan out, so they are more specific. Often they could be follow-up questions or related topics to the main prompt. So we are trying really to understand how could be a potential behavior to try to provide as much variety as possible of prompts to be studied, evaluated, and of course fixed potentially. In terms of insights from competitors, we have the overlap. We've tried also to understand more or less, comparing with the main foundations, how they were behaving. And we have finally the coverage split per type, not topic. In this case, the type is much more connected with what are the main purposes of a certain page. This helps more or less understand how closely semantically the competitor can be to your main website, or how further away. And you can also understand how predominant they can be for certain types of prompts. The analysis and suggestion, which is probably the favorite part for many of the agencies, because it really provides a critical analysis of the page status and readiness, providing the suggestions of every issue based on the main foundations of AI, and afterwards exact instructions based on the page itself, how to fix and what could be implemented to bring up the score overall of the landing page. Now, I believe that we are done. If there are any questions, we are definitely available.
I'm checking if we have any questions here. Just a sec. All right, Diana, I can see one. How is the different from traditional SEO tools?
Okay, now that is an excellent question. Well, first of all, many SEO tools can already identify many issues that are also seen by AI Search Audit. The traditional SEO tools try to replicate the crawling of traditional search engines such as Google, while ours is trying to replicate the behavior of a potential ChatGPT, just to give you an example. They see pages in a different way. They identify the structure and what's within differently. So we need to take into account both aspects. Traditional SEO takes into account technical SEO, web performance, so page SEO, everything that are the fundamentals of SEO, of course, while this tool is bringing that extra something that very often is much more connected with structure or usability of the page, or crawlability for LLMs that, for example, are not capable of properly passing JavaScript. So you need to take into account everything that is extra, that is required to be properly visible, because LLMs are not capable of understanding the content in the same way. They do not love massive blocks of text. They need clarity, they need structure, and this is why this tool tries to identify and focuses on those areas that very often go straight on top of a traditional SEO roadmap.
All right, thank you. I don't see any other comments, Diana. So I think we're good.
Okay, so thank you very much. This was quite quick. I'm happy about that. And of course, for everyone that participated in this webinar, there is a promo code that you can insert directly within our website, AI Search Audit. And feel free to try and reach out to explore furtherly if you wish, and also to understand how we can fix all the issues directly with Kleecks. Thank you.
Thank you. See you next time. Bye.